Hello, everybody. Here we are.
Hello.
Here we are.
Hello, everybody.
Oh, it's been a couple weeks.
Oh, my goodness.
How we doing? How's everybody? Hello.
What a day. What a day.
Just a day? Come on.
Oh, my goodness. A day. There's a part of my day that this morning that I haven't even told you about.
I know.
That's how terrible it was.
I've been anticipating.
Oh, my goodness.
You've been holding out on me.
Ooh, but I'll tell you what, I'm exhausted.
Yeah,
But I'm making it. I'm going to make it through.
It's a graduation weekend, folks, and
Yes,
there's stuff
it is.
happening in multiple places and multiple cities, and running and jumping and shouting and dancing and all kind of stuff.
Yes.
Yep, you worn out?
I'm worn out.
But we're here.
And we're here.
Yeah.
And the day isn't done.
The day isn't done.
I still have a lot more left to do after we finish.
Look, I'm winding down after this. I kind of got my stuff out
I'm
the way.
afraid if I lay down and wind down, I'm going to be sleeping until
you will
church
be.
tomorrow morning.
That's probably about true.
So I'll just keep moving.
But it's been a good day, though.
Yes,
And now a little bit of rain outside.
Yeah.
Those of us here in Rochester. Welcome to everybody. Hello. We're just talking, jibber jabbering. But, we're here. We missed the past couple weeks. Actually, we took the past couple weeks off. It was 2 weeks, right?
Yes.
We took 2 weeks off.
Yes.
I think one of them we were exhausted. And the other one we just said,
We
nah,
were,
we're not gonna do it.
we had to wait. Yes.
So
lining things up.
we're back, and man, it's like there's a lot to talk about. There's some big time stuff
Yes.
to talk about. So, we took a little bit of break, which we might do from time to time, but
Yes.
we'll be able to come back strong. So hello to everybody that is connecting up, coming online. If you're seeing this later versus the live version of it, welcome to you. This is Conversations with Pam and David.
Yes.
And we're glad to be back with you this week, all charged up and ready to go. You can join us in the conversation here, either by putting your comments on. Even if you come later, we'll catch them. And if you put your comments in, we will catch up those and sometimes comment back to them as well. Nothing like the live interaction, though. So if you're on in here, you can comment to us, or you can also give us a call and really get involved in the conversation by giving us a call. The number here, I don't even remember anymore. I forgot the number. What's the number now? Is it 951?
799-9032.
32, right?
Yes.
Exactly. I almost
Yes.
forgot. It's been a while. So, man, let's see what happens in a couple weeks. I was hoping I would be able to get everything started and turned on right because, it's a lot of stuff happening.
They keep changing. Yes.
And they keep changing it. Yeah.
Yes.
So, but I think we did okay.
Changes.
I think we did okay. We got to get a producer or something here that can work all that stuff for us, like in the good old.
Yes.
Well, we don't have that budget. So the budget is me. You're looking at the budget, right? So we just do what we got to do. So welcome again, once again, Conversations, Pam and David. Lots to talk about. I think the biggest thing to talk about this week is Juneteenth.
Juneteenth, yes, that is a hot topic right now.
Where did that come from? It's like all of a sudden we have a Juneteenth national holiday. It's like, whoa. Where did that happen? When did that happen? Where were we at?
Yes, exactly.
So it's like, 2 days ago that we said, okay, it's being signed into law now. First of all, how often do we get a national holiday?
A national holiday. They held out on us, though.
They haven't.
And letting us know.
They haven't, first of all, established a national holiday since Ronald Reagan. That's the last time we established a national holiday. I mean, you can't just keep putting them in because, then nobody would go to work anytime. So it's not like every year you get a new national holiday.
Yeah, right. Well, this time it happened to be on a Saturday.
Yeah, well, it goes with the date.
Who knows what will happen next time?
So it'll rotate, just like with Memorial Day. Memorial Day is usually the 31st or whatever. And they always celebrate it that first Monday.
Yes.
And so this one, the 19th, fell on a Saturday. And the government took it on a Friday. And so the federal offices were closed, but a lot of the normal places that would be closed, like the banks and even the post office, they didn't find out till the day before. So it's like, what are we supposed to do now? So they did not take off. Whether they'll take off next year or not, I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
Probably. I would assume so. It's a national holiday. But that's big time. So
it really is.
You don't get national holidays just picked up very often. And like I said, it's been since Ronald Reagan, and that was the MLK holiday.
Martin Luther King. Right.
So now this one comes up, 2021, a year to remember, Insurrection Day, and the new national holiday, Juneteenth.
Right.
So,
exactly.
Wow, it's only half over.
Yes.
So it's a lot of things going on, but really want to talk about what this really means, what this is all about. What does this do for us as a country? Is this a good thing, a bad thing overall? I think there's a lot to talk about there.
Yeah, I think it is a good thing, but wow, look how long it took to, for it to get national, recognition and to be accepted as a national holiday.
Well, like we said,
it just seems like everything regarding people of color takes it takes more effort and an extra long time.
Well, like I said, we don't have national holidays selected every, whatever. It's very rare that it even happens. Number one, I'm seeing comments that I can't see. I'm trying to find these comments. I see comments. Oh, there they are. I found them. I see your comments now. I was seeing a comment count. I'm like, I don't see the comments, but now I see them. So hello to everybody connecting up. I see you now. We see you. Good evening. Thank you for sharing something so that we know you're there. So, it's first of all, it's rare to have any national holiday selected. And,
for it to be selected.
For it to be, number one, towards a very specific ethnic group is very unique as well. We've had like Memorial Day, most of the things that are national holidays really involve the nation overall. Let's put it that way. You have the nation's holiday, and then you have, Thanksgiving, which is across the board. You have a couple religious, you have Christmas, you have Easter, and, we used to be Christian nation. Well, some people say we never were, but we are mostly Christians. So those were religious holidays that became national holidays. And then you have the war-related ones, Veterans Day, Memorial Day. Of course, you have New Year's, but you don't have holidays. MLK was really the first one that was a specific man. We have President's Day. Is that a national holiday? I think it is. Yeah, it's a national holiday. Yes. Y'all take it off. Columbus Day was one of the ones that was perhaps a little bit ethnically based, but it was really focused at the time at the discovery of this country that led to the discovery of North America, which ultimately led to, so it wasn't really initially designed as an ethnic holiday. You have things like, St. Patrick's Day, which aren't national holidays, which focus on specific ethnic groups. But this is a holiday very specific. And I guess you could say it's not simply related to the ethnic group, it's related to the history of the country. That's probably a fairer way to say it. It really is not just tied to African Americans per se. It's tied to a very monumental aspect of history in the country, right? Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
So Juneteenth, let's talk about really what that represents, and then we got to get back to how we suddenly got this holiday out of nowhere. But what does it represent? Tell us, babe.
Well, it represents it represents that finally we are being, our history is being recognized for what it really is.
But what is the history of Juneteenth?
I just posted something saying that 1776, which was Independence Day, 4th of July. Well, it's the Independence Day of America, the United States. However, it was not the Independence Day of African Americans. We were not free, and still to some degree, but because we're still fighting for a lot of things. And it actually 1865 represents freedom for us. That's what it represents.
Yeah. More specifically, it represents the last group, the last state,
Texas,
in which African Americans were told that they were actually free.
Right.
And this is 3 years after.
Because it was 1862.
Right. 1862 was the actual Emancipation Proclamation, where freedom was declared for all slaves in the country.
But yes.
And everybody didn't know that at the same time.
Isn't that something that there were still people that thought they were still enslaved?
Yeah, I mean, first of
all, they didn't know.
Right.
And actually there were some people that chose to actually stay or remain enslavement.
Well, enslavement in wages, in however
and not
they
knowing,
worked it out.
Exactly. And also I think not knowing how they were going to survive. I think some of them did feel comfortable. Not that they were comfortable, but rather than venture out and not know what was going to happen, at least they felt on this being enslaved and on the plantation, they knew.
Yeah, and that's like a common thing for a lot of people. I mean, some people would rather stay in the situation they are,
even they're comfortable.
Even if it's not a good situation.
Right.
It could be very uncomfortable.
But they knew.
But they'd rather stay with what they know than venture out on their own.
And accept change.
Well, think about it. Forget about change. Just survival, right?
Right. That's what
if I'm here, right, somebody's going to feed me. Somebody's going to provide food.
It may be a small amount of rations.
Right. It may not be the greatest thing, but if I go out in the wilderness, I don't know how to take care of myself. Right. I don't have anything to hunt with. I don't have any survival skills. I don't know how I'm going to survive. Right. So as a matter of survival, there were many that decided, I'm going to stay here
and sharecrop.
And we're going to work something out.
And that wasn't it. That was still enslavement.
Well, they were still abusive, right? They took advantage of them.
Right.
They made them, quote unquote, work to earn things that
and then they still didn't pay them. Exactly.
Right? So there were a lot of abuses in doing that. Right. And some of them did decide that they'd rather deal with that than try and take the risk on their own.
Right.
Some of them prospered, overcame, even against those obstacles and against all those things that were against them.
Exactly.
They overcame it.
Well, it's obvious that they overcame because we are still here. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, the flag itself, there's a flag. And again, this holiday comes, I never even knew there was a flag, a Juneteenth flag.
I didn't know. I knew there was Juneteenth. I knew there were small, there were celebrations.
Exactly.
I suspect that they would be even larger now.
Well, people, in this region, Buffalo has been well known for the past probably 10, maybe 15 years for having a pretty large Juneteenth celebration.
Yes, I've definitely heard of them.
And there have been smaller ones. Rochester's had some as well. I'm sure other places have had them. Other parts of the country have had them, but they have been relatively minor in comparison to certain areas. And so the story of Juneteenth was out there, but here's the flag. I had no idea that someone had actually, and because the thing I'm saying is yesterday, the holiday was 2 days ago. Yesterday, there's this flag out there. Where the flag come? I've never seen the flag before, but people are now flying this flag, and that's a whole nother issue.
And it happens to be red, white, and blue.
Well, that's one of the things I wanted to talk about. There is a lot. All of this stuff in here is symbolism. Mm-hmm. There's meaning behind everything that's there. And so that's something that people are going to want to learn because, we just found out there was a flag. And so maybe we should figure out what it means.
And how did they come up with that?
Well, so one thing, there was a man that actually created this flag a while ago, several years ago. And so it's been around actually for a while. But the first thing is the colors, red, white, and blue. Yeah. And the red, white, and blue is supposed to relate to it being a United States, that we are part of the United States. We are not,
we're not separate.
We're not just strangers in the sun. All of us have been born here, African Americans, and so we are part of this country, whether people want to acknowledge that or not. Right. We are not outsiders here. We are not foreigners. We are part of the country. Right. The star represents the fact that there was freedom across, first of all of the United States. Mm-hmm. So it represents all 50 states, but it especially represents the Lone Star State, which is Texas. And so it's an indication, exactly, the last state to know. Of course, the date's over here. And on that date, when Texas finally, that's just an amazing thing to think. 3 years, this has been out there, and they just never bothered to even tell anybody. So they just kept living their life in Texas like it didn't exist. You still are slaves. You still got to work for us.
And I'm sure somebody knew.
That. Oh, of course they knew. Their legislators knew.
Exactly. They knew.
right? And so you have people still living under slavery
Right.
that technically were not, and nobody came to enforce it. So guess what? They just kept on keeping on until finally, I'm assuming they were forced to tell people that, look, okay, according to here, the law has changed. Now, remember, they didn't have exactly have like cell phones back then.
Exactly.
So it's like nobody was calling down and saying, hey, y'all know y'all free now, right?
Right.
You know,
exactly.
So,
and some people couldn't read,
right?
Even
And,
if, you know.
Yeah. So they were restricted. So back to this. This is a starburst. This starburst represents the fact that hope, a new horizon, new opportunity, so new beginnings. The starburst represents a new beginning. This angle here actually represents the horizon, looking off the horizon, and so a new horizon there. So new opportunities are going to come after this point, and so all those things are indications of different types of things representing this new hope from 1865. Now, reality is we know we've struggled still even after that. Our people struggle, and there've been a lot of stories lately about the struggle of over the course of time, like what we saw in Oklahoma, things that have happened in down in Tulsa, Florida. All these different things that have been shared out. Sorry, I'm bending down, but I can't see. All these things that have been shared out of the struggles, of the type of things that people have gone through, even since that time. But yet this represents a turning point where the last of those who have been held in slavery in the United States were finally told they were free. Right. And you can only imagine the kind of transition mindset that they had to go through throughout the country for those 3 years, just trying to, because you may be saying I'm free, but that dude over there looking at me,
he's not. You might be saying it, but he's not too happy about it.
He ain't getting it. He
doesn't get it now,
right? So hey, brother-in-law's on. Hey. So this stuff is this marks something, and so here you go. This thing comes out of nowhere. Now, there's a lot of stuff, that's going on.
Well, of course, it had to be on the table and it had to be discussed.
Of course it has. But this is what surprises me.
But they're just now letting us know.
This is what's surprising me, because usually, we hear all the time.
They had to have roundtable meetings.
There's all kind of conversations going on right now about bills that are passing through Congress.
Exactly.
How they're trying to, do they're trying to do bills for this. They're trying to do bills for the economy. You hear all this in the news. I had not heard anything. Well, I knew for a long period of time that this had been in the wind. Right. What I did not hear was that they were seriously getting to where they had the votes for this to pass.
I didn't. Yes.
Until a few days ago.
Anything about that.
All of a sudden, apparently it first passed through the Senate, which is shocking to begin with, right? Versus the House. I would think something like this would have gotten through the House for the Senate. But the Senate must have passed. I didn't even hear it was in the Senate. And then all of a sudden I heard, well, the House has gotten the votes and the House has passed this bill for this to be a national. It's like, what? Where did that come from? And the president's going to sign it. So why this came so much out of the blue is a real strange question as to what was going on to drive this behind the scenes. Because usually when stuff like this happens, it's because there's so much popular push and drive and people, that are pushing this. Why all of a sudden, and think about it, they had to get the votes of both sides of the House, both sides of the Senate to get this through. Why all of a sudden are they like, oh yeah, this is a great thing to do. Let's have a national holiday, make a national holiday of Juneteenth, when we still haven't made a law to prevent hanging people. But this is okay to do. It's kind of like, where is this coming from?
Well, Trump isn't president anymore.
Yeah, but still.
But maybe he was holding it up.
It would have never happened.
That's my point.
But
Biden went ahead and he signed and passed it.
Yeah, but I'm saying, how did it get past the House and the Senate to begin with? Where did all of a sudden they get all this popular agreement that we're going to pass this bill through? Because this national holiday thing is no joke. I mean,
it isn't.
First of all,
it's a big deal.
This isn't like them announcing and saying, okay, we're doing a memorial or a recognition in honor of, Juneteenth. This is now going to be in front of this country every year.
From now on.
From
now
year,
until,
this is going to be showing up.
Yeah.
And it shows up right before the 4th of July holiday.
Isn't that ironic?
So my big thing is like, what is this going to do to this country in terms of every year? Think about it. Before celebrating the national holiday, the beginning of this country, July 4th, 1776, every year, 6 weeks ahead of that, this country is going to be reminded of how we lived in slavery and finally finally let them go.
Exactly.
Finally let them go.
It's like they have to admit, they have to accept.
It has to be acknowledged.
It has to be acknowledged the atrocity of slavery and what they did to a people. Every year.
That to me is amazing that they would do that, because they have now permanently, and again, the House and the Senate all signed on to this bill. Now, granted, it wasn't 100-0 or whatever, but they had the votes to get this through and sign this into law and sign it into public record of this country, that every year we are going to recognize that that we had slaves, we held these people slaves for all these years, 100 years. And finally, after 3 years of ignoring it, all of them were finally at least acknowledged the fact that they have been set free. That is a huge marker.
It really is. I see my brother here saying it's just a smokescreen to divert our attention off of the real issues at hand.
Yeah, I mean, I see that, and my concern is, or my question is, does it really divert it, or does it just escalate it? Because again, now you can't hide it. Well, every year we're going to be reminded of it.
Well, also, there are other groups that are joining in with the Juneteenth bill being passed. You have the gay community. They are the Asian community. They're actually joining in. Because it's representing a freedom. It's representing people and groups as being one in the United States. So you've got a lot of other subgroups that are supporting it, for their reasons, which is a good thing.
So here's another thing that came up, and this was one of the dissenters, one of those that disagree with the bill. They said, "What are we going to do now? We're going to have a holiday now for the Indians, right? In other words, are we going to make a holiday now for all these different groups?" But the thing is, maybe they should.
Maybe they should, because they do owe the American Indians,
right? Because they
just like they owe African American people. Now, I can't speak for the other groups, but African Americans and American Indians.
But this is the whole point.
They should give them something. Because they took the country from African Americans, from the American Indians. Christopher Columbus did not discover America.
Yeah. And so that argument is going on now about that holiday.
They ran them off of the land. The Trail of Tears in the whole nine, gave them the chicken pox, killed them off. So they do owe them some type of a holiday.
So that
national holiday.
But that's the point I'm making about this one, is because this is going to be remembered now every year, 6 weeks before we have the 4th of July.
Yes.
We're going to be like, Juneteenth. Y'all remember Juneteenth.
Yes.
And then, 6 weeks leading up. My question is, does this, and this is really the question, and, by the way, some of y'all online, I think we got to have a big conversation about this. I think this is going to be the only week.
Anthony King said, "Y'all telling the truth."
I think we going to talk, Anthony, because I think we got to have a big group conversation on this.
Yes.
This is a heavy issue.
Yes,
because
it is.
This now means, the question is, does this help to bring the country together, or does it make it even more divided?
Well, I think over the past few years, some things are happening because we need to be brought together as one.
Is this bringing us together? I mean, because again, the place where this country is right now, it is constantly looking for things that make it's so
separate.
Polar.
Right.
It's so polar. You're on one side or you're on the Eddie's on too. It's you're on one side or you're on the other side. And so this to some degree, what you should not want is for there to be, I'm on the Juneteenth side or I'm on the 4th of July side. Y'all celebrate Juneteenth, and we're going to celebrate the 4th.
No,
that is the danger.
That's the danger of it. But I think that both should be celebrated because you know what? Because African Americans, we are still here in America.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the 4th of July, Independence Day, that's still part of us.
That is.
But
right.
We also deserve to have our history recognized on Juneteenth.
That's the whole other point. Let me get to that in a second. But that's the whole. That's
We're still Americans.
That's the ideal state, is that we understand that this means that we are part of this country, and that so that we would be able to come together. They can no longer
just ignore that.
Right. And would be able to come together and say, look, we are all one. We got here different ways. We went through other things. And the American Indians
built the country.
Are the same way.
Yes.
American Indians were pushed out of their own identity.
Yes.
Just like we were. They were pushed out of their identity and forced to become a part of this country. So guess what? The American Indians are part of this country now. So those who are, unless those are states, some of them stayed out as their own. Mm-hmm. But we were forced into this. Our identity was taken away. We were assimilated into this country. Mm-hmm. Guess what? We're not part of this country. You can't just push us out.
Right.
That's the idea. And so can these two different ideologies get along? That's the long-term question, because now, again, I keep saying, now every year is here. We got to deal with it
it's in your face.
Year.
Yeah.
So now, but the other point, there's so much coming in. You guys are saying some good stuff here. But the other point of what you were saying, in terms of this now, us having the right to be recognized, our own history and background.
Yes.
Again, this. There's been a whole nother argument going on behind the lines. I forget the term. Y'all can help me with that. In terms of teaching our history in our true history, right. African-American history, there's been a real argument, battle, debate going on saying, no, we don't want to teach all that stuff. We don't want all that stuff in our schools. There have been
That's another
on both
debate.
Sides,
exactly.
Right?
How can you ignore that?
So how are you saying, and this again,
how can you not?
This again comes from the senators. It comes from the congressmen who have been fighting this. So in the midst of them fighting this, now all of a sudden they pass this bill. Right. And it's like total opposite, right? You're saying, no, you should not be teaching those things in the schools.
Well, they'll have to.
Make this happen.
Well, you know what? Now they will be forced to teach it, because like what Anthony King is saying, in 1776, African Americans were not free. There was no independence.
We weren't even officially part of the country.
So you know what?
We weren't considered to be even humans.
This is what history, exactly. We were considered to be animals and cattle.
Right.
But this is what history, property. This is what history does. It tells the story properly. If you can get the proper information. And right now we're living in the informational age, informational era.
Right.
You can learn anything and you can research anything and find out the actual history. So it's making it very difficult, very hard for them to ignore it or just say that it did not exist or it didn't happen that way. So you have people that actually know the history and they're pushing it and they're forcing it. So they will have to change the history books, just the way they had to change the fact that, the idea of Christopher Columbus discovering America, that is no longer in the history books that way. They give him credit for the exploration,
right.
But they had to change the history books in high schools and elementary school. It no longer says Christopher Columbus discovered America. So now we are going to start saying something different in the history books regarding African American people and the Juneteenth. It's inevitable. They will have to teach it.
Let me get a word in.
Okay.
So that's one of the things that's really that.
I'm sorry.
So that's what you get excited about this. I told you we got to talk about this. Critical race theory. Thank you, Anthony. Critical race theory.
Yes.
So that is one of the things that, again, this is now a national holiday. I keep going back to this. How are you not going to have this in the history books?
It has to
It's
be.
a national holiday now.
It
right?
has to be. Finally, we are getting something in the history books
right.
that's going to tell our truth.
Well, even
something other than Martin Luther King and Harriet Tubman.
So
giving them all their credit, but there's so much more.
So even above and beyond this now, one of the things that's happened, and you've seen it again this year, you are getting people with influence and money.
Yes.
Who are starting now to finance telling these stories.
Yes.
So you have people like, like Oprah
Yes.
Winfrey. Not only that, I don't know if many of you've noticed, but a lot of these documentaries that are coming out now
Yes.
are being sponsored. They're being executive produced by basketball players.
Yes.
You have people. Oh, here it comes. You got done with. Never mind, y'all. Just ignore that.
It's just a little.
Don't you start barking. Don't you start.
Sit right here.
So, LeBron James is one of them. I believe Dwayne Wade is another one.
Yes.
Who has started sponsoring, they're executive producing. They're paying to have these stories actually put into film and made available. So people with influence and money are starting to stand behind getting these stories out into the public eye.
Yes. I heard something Barack Obama and Michelle Obama
as well, right?
As well,
another, yeah.
Yes.
So you have people with money and influence who are starting to create Black stories of history.
Yes.
So that those stories are getting much more exposure and will get much more exposure going in the future. So one way or the other. So this is a huge change that is taking place. I mean, the Juneteenth thing, how this comes out and passes, really still kind of boggles me. But at the same time, there are so many other things that are, going on. There is a major push to really get history out in terms of some of these things. So it's a new day.
It's a new day. It's a new dawn. It's a new day.
So I'm going to be, this year, the holiday came up last minute, so much stuff really didn't get put in place in time. Next year will really be the
Could
first.
You imagine the celebrations next year?
Next year will be
we'll be all prepared. I'll have my shirt next year. In fact, I already ordered our shirts.
Okay. So she ordered our shirts. You heard that, right? So, so next year will be the first true year, but this one is just like, everybody's like, whoa, what? Next year it'll really start.
Yes.
And so it's going to be interesting to see how these two play off of each other.
Yeah.
And, where this leads in terms of how history will be experienced and spoken and expressed here in the United States. This is a huge step.
Oh, it's huge. It's huge.
But I really want to hear from more
huge
people.
Things have been happening.
Yeah, I really want to hear. We want to have a real dialogue on this. Again, this came up so quickly.
We're going to do this again.
But we want to bring some people into this conversation because this is a heavy duty one of this change, what it means, and what this is going to mean for our country in terms of this, and then other things that are going to go on after that. So a lot of other things that are going on right now as well that we'll throw into the conversation with you. COVID. We've been talking about COVID now for 15, 16, 18 months, 12 years. Something like that.
Yeah.
But there's been a huge change, downward curve in the coronavirus, which is good. The question is, how comfortable are we with this? I mean, I know a lot of people are still dealing with the vaccine and whether they're comfortable with it, whether that's a good thing or not. But the reality is the vaccine has had a significant impact on the coronavirus, especially here in areas where it has been made available. We're one of those countries where having the vaccine has been accessible, and total population somewhere around 50-something%, adult population close to 65%, somewhere in there, now vaccinated. And you can see it's had a huge effect. This is New York. It's only going back to the first of the year, but you can see it continues to go down. This is the number of cases that we're seeing now. There's certainly been an impact, and it does correlate with vaccinations that we've had. So you have to come to a point here, folks, where we really look at this and say there is a realistic correlation here to the success of this. And by the way, again, we've seen vaccines before. We've seen these kind of impacts before, where you've had a vaccine that for polio, for other things, measles, mumps, etc., and it really has had an impact, positive impact. So the United States as a whole. Now, this is interesting because you're starting to see it tick up in the United States as a whole. And when you start looking for that, you'll find that there are certain areas of the country where there has been less vaccination. And that's where you're starting to see a little bit of a tick up. I think Texas was one of the states that we saw that. Here's the state of Texas. So you can see it ticking up here a little bit. But a lot of the states that have primarily been covered by vaccine, California, New York, two of the biggest ones, they now have been way down and consistently down, along with hordes of other states. So you got to say, it's been relatively successful.
Mm-hmm.
And so the question for those who have not been vaccinated is, okay, are we out of the water? Are we good now?
Mm-hmm.
We not have to worry about things. Are we safe? And I'm a little bit concerned. That last chart we were just looking at where you see the tick up, just because the numbers have gone down and a lot of people are protected does not mean that those who have not been vaccinated are truly safe. And the biggest fear is what happens over time, because, when you get into the fall, and when you're starting to get more circulation again, people are starting to travel like crazy.
Oh yeah, people are getting out,
and people are stirring, exposing, and sharing, and things like that. The idea of the vaccinations and what they call this herd immunity is that if one person gets it, they can't just bump into 10 others and spread it. So there's less people. There's only 6 or 7 people around them. Well, 6 or 7 people around them are vaccinated, so they bump into them means nothing. You only go through these 2 or 3. So the slow rates, the spread rates should be much slower if somebody comes into the community that has it. It does not mean that you can't be one of the other 3, though.
Yeah, that's true.
And so it does slow down the ability of the virus to spread to you, but at the same time, you individually are still at risk. And I hope people don't get so comfortable because of these numbers who haven't been vaccinated that they don't stop realizing that they still have a risk of exposure.
Yes, exactly.
And time works against you.
Right.
So the longer the time goes on, the more probable that you're going to run into somebody that has them. And the other problem is that, with all these variants that are coming on, and I heard a doctor talking about it this week and said it very clearly. The more variants that go on, the variants that survive are typically more resilient than whatever they're replacing. So as this virus spreads and, it gets killed off here, just like all the insects and things like that. The ones that survive, just like with pesticides, they spray all the pesticides out. The bugs that survive it are the ones that are tougher bugs.
Super bug.
Yeah.
So we end up with a super bug.
Right. And a lot of times those super bugs weren't growing as much because they were overwhelmed by all the other ones. But now you killed all the other ones out. So guess what? There's nothing left to fight them or for them to compete with. So they gotta grow. That's what a variant is. That's basically what a variant is. So as you killed out the weaker versions of these viruses, the ones that are stronger now start excelling. And so I think the next one they have is called a Delta virus, Delta variant. And that one now is growing. And the point that this doctor said was that over the course of time, these variants will get more. The reason that they survive is because they are stronger in one fashion or another. So the Delta one that's out now is supposed to be much more contagious. Right. Eventually, you're going to get those that are not just more contagious. They're stronger. They're more resistant.
So we still need to be very careful and continue to wear the mask. Also, what about there are still other countries, people in other countries are being infected.
Right.
Because now I'm understanding that there are people coming from India going into Liberia. India has a very high rate of coronavirus. People are dying, but they are now going into Liberia. So therefore, Liberians are now at risk.
So here's the part too. Let's look at it, right? So this is Japan. Japan just had a huge surge not too long ago. They're coming out of it, right? Let's look at India the same way. Just you hit that one right on the head. India had a huge surge that took place just about a month and a half ago.
Yes. They're
coming out of it. But to your case in point, they're coming out of it. And you said Liberia, right?
Yes.
Look at what's happening in Liberia. Now Liberia is shooting up. So this is exactly what you just described. People coming from these other areas. Now parts of Africa are shooting up, and they again don't have vaccine availability.
Right.
So Liberia, look at South Africa. So Africa as a whole right now is starting to experience, look at this, a huge resurgence of the virus. Wow. And again, they do not have the protection. Show you a couple more. Zambia,
yeah.
Pow, look at that. It's surging up. Zimbabwe, same way, surging up. So now the danger, which, and this is what I want us to understand, this is a danger to us all, because
yes,
the world is no longer, you're way over there, you're way over there.
We are
it's
now
one global world. And just like you said about leaving India, traveling to Liberia, people travel. Just think about the original bug back last year. It started out in China, it went into Europe, it came down into the United States, spread into Canada. I mean, it was all over the world in a matter of a couple of months.
Right.
You know, so what's happening elsewhere impacts us all.
Exactly.
And so as long as you allow these exposures to grow like this, more variants, more resistant bugs. The last one actually came from South Africa, I believe. And so these things, and then they pass back around and through. Right. So the last one, the Delta one, which was first discovered in South Africa, they're saying is now back here in the United States. And they're expecting it's going to become now the new dominant strain relatively quickly. Not the first time these strains have changed over like this. Every time this happens, even those of us who are vaccinated, not to mention those who are not vaccinated, run the risk of another exposure. This just goes on. If you don't stop it everywhere, it just goes on and on and on and on. Right. And so the reality is there are countries like ours, the Middle East, the European nations, things like that, which are getting a decent amount of vaccination. China just did a surge in vaccination. Just had their 1 billionth vaccine shot. So they did this huge surge over the past few months to get their people vaccinated, and they got a lot of people. But you have other places where it's less than 1% vaccinated, less than 0.2% vaccinated. And when this virus gets in those areas, the danger and the risk, first of all, to those people, second of all, to making another melting pot to make more variants out of it, and then shipping it overseas again, it just recycles over and over and over again. So the danger, my biggest concern is that people will get too comfortable thinking this is over.
Right.
This doesn't mean, again, for those especially who are vaccinated, the protection that we have right now is seems to be very valid. We've seen it in the evidence, so a quote unquote normalcy is great. It may be temporary.
Yeah.
And again, for those who haven't been vaccinated, still got issues, still got to protect yourself. If you're not going to be vaccinated, you better protect yourself.
Exactly.
Because the more comfortable you think you are, the more in danger you're going to be.
Right. Because you'll become very comfortable and you'll become lax.
That's the whole concern.
Yes.
So, that's one of the major things that continues out there in terms of, health and watching this thing is, are we done? Is there's whole much, everybody wants it to be done. I want it to be done. I'd be happy for this to
we want to be able to travel. We
done.
Want to go to Africa, but we won't be going anytime soon.
At least we're vaccinated though.
Yeah, but still, who wants to run the risk?
Okay, all right. Okay, calm down. Hey, we're on the air here. So anyway, that's the kind of dangers that we have going on. Come sit down. Where's your bone at?
Come on, Poochie. Okay.
we have another house guest here we got to deal with. So anyway, those are two major things that are going on. There are a few other things going on right now that are also very significant. The Supreme Court upholding Obamacare for a third time is a huge thing and an embarrassment to certain previous presidents who thought if they changed the court, they could get rid of Obamacare. It's still here, 7-2 in a conservative court, 7-2 for to uphold. That's pretty impactful. So, there's still more to come, but that's something that really slaps a lot of people in the face. And then, you have national violence, which I really don't want to get into in full tonight. But hey, there he is. Is that gonna keep him calm?
Yeah.
You gonna be calm now? Huh? You want something you want to say?
No, we don't do that.
You have something you want to say to the audience? You want to talk to people? Is that it? You got something to say? No comment. No.
Just sit down.
Okay. All right. He's cool. So no comments from the dog side of things. You want a dog holiday? National dog holiday? Would that be good? Okay. So anyway, national violence is a whole other subject. I think it's kind of late to get into, but we're seeing mass shootings around the country now. Yes, this is terrible. At a rate that we have not seen, I don't think, in any other time, at least the ones that are being announced. We went from, we've talked earlier this year and last year about police killing people, especially Black people. That's been a big thing. But now the violence that's going on has been so incredible. Eddie says he loves the dog. But he's part of the cast now. But that, the violence is going on not only in terms of these mass shootings, but also in terms of our folks shooting our folks in the city.
This is, yes.
So for those not from this area, this week, just a couple of days ago, we had just something that just kind of, it's just amazing. It was an assassination. A young woman, we don't know the whole story, but a woman was in her car. Some people drove up to the side of the car, and first in one car, then I believe a second one came up. They came out, they shot her in her car over 17 times with the kids sitting in the back seat. And apparently, from what we've heard thus far, it was some kind of back and forth, revenge type of situation. A couple of groups that are having issues with each other. This kind of stuff is happening all over different parts of the country.
It's awful.
People are killing people. We had somebody a couple weeks ago, they were shooting and they shot and they ended up going through a church. And people were in the church. I've seen pastors that were on live streaming, and gunshots started out in the background while they were live streaming. This is a time of violence across the board, which is hard to even fathom what's going on. That's something that also deserves its own full conversation and discussion about what is going on. But mass shootings, these personal vendetta shootings back and forth, especially amongst our young people today, there's a whole nother root of conversation to dig up in terms of what's going on there and why, and what do we have to do to turn it around. So lots of things to talk about, but I think we're going to cool it for the night. I think we've done our job. And we want to talk more about this Juneteenth as we go forward. So we're going to set something up more for that, bring some other people in that conversation, because I think there's a lot more to be had. So I think to wind out, we do want to say Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there, right?
Happy Father's Day,
hope you enjoy your day tomorrow and the weekend. If you aren't, a lot of graduations happening too for all the graduates. Want to say congratulations to you.
Congratulations.
And your families. You have a lot of them going on, right?
Oh, wow.
So congratulations to all those families, and Happy Father's Day, all the fathers. We're going to wind it up. And we're going to call it a night and go on to do the other stuff we got to do and get the dog to calm down and do what he wants. Everybody's got to get situated. So until next week, everybody, next time, God bless. If you have any other comments, don't feel free to leave them, and we will comment to them later. And make sure you connect up with us in the future. Back next Saturday. Tomorrow morning, we'll be on for Father's Day, 11:30 a.m. for our morning worship service at the church. Gonna have a great service tomorrow. Looking forward to it. Celebrating the men plus more. So join us tomorrow morning, live stream. If you're not at your church, if you can't go back, if you haven't gone back or you don't go to one, connect up with us here at 11:30 a.m. tomorrow morning. God bless everybody. Have a good night. And I think we're ready to get out of here. So let's call it a night.
Well, not exactly. I still have things
we're not
to
calling
do.
it a night. We got
we'll
more to
just
do.
Stop this right now.
We're going to go on to the next thing.
Yes.
Man, I'm ready to wind it down, y'all. I was working earlier so I could come. All right, everybody. We're going to get out of here. So y'all have a good evening.
Okay.
And say goodbye, Gizmo.
Say bye. Bye, everybody.
It's our new star of the show. All right, everybody. Have a good night.
Okay, good night, everyone.
We'll see you. Goodbye.
Oh, now he gets off my